Hi, Right Writers. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining us in this video as we review Common App prompt number 1. If by the end of this video, you find that it is useful and helpful, please make sure that you forward it to other people, share it, and or hit that subscribe button and join us as we look at writing more in depth in this particular channel. So in this case, we're going to look at Common App prompt number 1. We're going to look at a rough draft that I created. Keep in mind, Right Writers, that this rough draft was created in a little under 2 hours. And when we look at this rough draft, I'm going to read it all the way through. And then we will start to deconstruct it and critique it and determine, areas that I can improve as a writer and some things that I would need to adjust. So again, part of this is to ensure that you too take the time to not only write a rough draft, but then come back to it later and review it with critical eyes. All right, let's get right to it. And again, just reviewing the prompt itself. The prompt in prompt 1 asks, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So for me, I think this particular prompt is really more focused on background and identity rather than interest or talent. And so that's what I focused on within this particular essay. Okay, let's take a look at the rough draft and the introduction. Keep in mind, Right Writers, that I also, noticed some issues, I believe, in a previous video. And so I made sure that I highlighted any issues that I saw. So here's my introduction. Although my mom and I had what some might call a combative relationship, when I told her that I wanted a real summer job, not one where I babysat my younger sisters, I noticed how attentive she was to what I had to say. The prospect of me working intrigued her, almost as if she was proud of her daughter's wishes. The only problem was that I was 14, too young to work in the traditional sense. However, she found a solution. Her eldest brother, my uncle, Uncle Victor, she called him Vic, was the manager of a mid sized hotel in Orlando. Tourists may recognize its location, and notice here, Right Writers, that I put jump because there's a little bit of a jump in organization from a mid-sized hotel, and then I jump to tourists. Tourists may recognize its location, International Drive, right across from Wet and Wild. And then I put there's another jump here. Problem solved. For the next 8 weeks, I would wake up around 6 in the morning to get ready for my first real job with real paychecks. Monday through Friday, summer day after summer day, my mom and I would make the 45-minute commute. Some days we would turn on the radio and listen to music. Other days we would sit in silence listening to Orlando stir. During the first weeks of our commutes, she would meet and speak with her brother before heading back to Kissimmee. However, their morning check ins grew less frequent. Her goal was to drop her daughter off at work, not spend time with her older brother. And then I went ahead and put how many words that intro was. So in this case, we don't really, okay, I said I was going to read the essay first and then start critiquing, but as you can see, Right Writers, I'm ready to go ahead and critique my own work and deconstruct it here. So I'm going to change my mind. I think that's allowed in YouTube videos. So in this case, what's interesting is that the reader doesn't know what I'm doing. And so I kind of like that it's mysterious as far as what is it that I do at this hotel. And you may think to yourself, oh, she's probably, going to be front desk or whatever. So that's kind of interesting because, again, as a college admissions officer, not that we want to put ourselves in their shoes, but we may assume that that's maybe what the college admissions officer thinks. Maybe she's going to be, assisting with front desk or doing, maybe a bellhop of some sort, a bellboy, whatever. We don't really know what I'm going to be doing. So I think that is to my advantage. Another positive that I notice is I definitely have, not to toot my own horn, but you can really hear writer's voice. And part of the writer's voice comes with, this manipulation of punctuation. So her eldest brother, my uncle. And so when you do things like that, you end up creating your own and finding your own unique voice in your writing. You want to write in a way that when the work is read aloud, you can really hear that person speaking to you. And so I think that's a positive. Let's see what else I reveal things about myself. Again, that I have younger sisters, and maybe I should put that I have three younger sisters to be more specific. And then the college admissions officer begins to learn more about me. Obviously, they know that, my mom and I did not have the best relationship. So that is revealed through the essay. And also, that my mom has a brother and that we had to drive. The commute was a long one to this work environment. Definitely, there's a jump in organization in those spots that I identified. And so that's something that I absolutely need to fix. And we'll come back to that later. Again, another plus is this idea of using different kinds of sentences. And so I alter sentence structures where, I've got some simple sentences, I have some compound sentences, and I also have complex and compound complex sentences. So again, and that really contributes, that sentence fluency contributes to writer's voice as well. So those are some positives that I might say about this introduction. And again, Right Writers, it is 223 words. Now let's go ahead and go into the body paragraph, and then just kind of visually showing you what that looks like. And then we'll critique, and then we'll go to our conclusion. Body paragraph. I remember my first week of training. I was given a tour of the hotel, including its lobby, and I met the front desk employees. My uncle introduced me as his niece, who would be working in housekeeping. Behind the bright hotel facade was its dungeon: gray, unadorned walls and concrete. Backstage pass required. I remember the punch in, punch out time clock, the smell of bleach and laundry detergent coupled with cigarette smoke. It was there where I met my trainer, a large, welcoming black woman older than my mother. She and I would clean rooms together for the next 5 days. Then I was on my own. During training, she and I would meet around 7:30 to go over our room list. On that list, we were told which guests would be checking out and which guests would remain. This list was an important piece of information. It predicted the workday. More checkouts meant more deep cleaning, more stripping sheets, more visits to the laundry room. In other words, more hustle. Less checkouts meant more breaks. On those rare occasions, I would watch women, many of whom were from Haiti, smoke cigarettes and tell interrupted stories of their youth or their families back home. A full story was impossible. First, our breaks were too short, plus, the intermittent disruptions caused by large air conditioning units prevented any prolonged conversation. Remaining guest rooms required the minimum: made beds, fresh towels, wipe down, and vacuum. Of course, the luck of the draw rooms were ones that had do not disturb signs. One might think that cleaning 16 to 20 rooms in 8 hours was the most challenging part of the work we did. However, pushing those heavy, large stainless steel carts with wobbly wheels hurt my back more than bending over toilets and bathtubs in a fitted, light blue polyester dress. Even more embarrassing for a 14-year-old was knocking on the doors yelling, "Housekeeping," or yelling, "Housekeeping." One of the things that I really like is how descriptive. There's a lot of imagery in this paragraph, and I really like that in what I created here. Again, lots of voice, lots of imagery. This is awkward. The placing of this part, and I understand that I have this in italics, and so it's almost like I digress and I go from, I wanted to talk about what the breaks looked like. However, it's just awkwardly placed. And so that is definitely one thing that I notice about this, my body paragraph. I'm going to go from here to here, and just see what it looked like or what it sounds like, and then remove this part right there. More checkouts meant more deep cleaning, more stripping sheets, more visits to the laundry room. In other words, more hustle. Less checkouts meant more breaks. Remaining guest rooms required the minimum. Okay, that sounds a little bit weird. So again, notice that the organization still needs some help, even if I move this in a different place or if I chose to remove it. So just keep that in mind, right, writers, for this one. Now, what I notice is I don't have the word count here, but I do have the total word count of 664 words. All right, right, writers. So we're going to go ahead and go to our conclusion because, again, we took the time to critique, and let's see what I have. A little bit short on the conclusion, I can say that, because when I think of the introduction, you can see it's pretty long, whereas my conclusion is significantly shorter. So that's something that you want to think about as a writer. Again, right, writers, I know I'm already critiquing it, but in the sense of, you want balance. So you can have a bulky body paragraph, but you want your introduction and conclusion to be about the same length. So let's see how I do as far as the close of it. This is the last thing the college admissions officer is going to remember. And so, what we really are trying to get to is we want to get to, if not the yes pile, at least the maybe pile. So let's take a look at this conclusion. Although my housekeeping days are over, the memories remain. Fragments, bits and pieces of who I am and who I was. On my last day, several women admitted to me that they did not think I would make it. Obviously, they were not there to see the tears shed on those humid summer days when I would hear children laughing and water splashing and think to myself, why am I here and not there? On those days, I knew I was just a teenager. But on other days, I knew I was just like those women, a woman who refused to give up. And really, I should maybe talk about quitting, but a woman who refused to give up. A woman, oh, I did in the next one. See, I even forgot what I wrote, right, writers? A woman who refused to give up, a woman who refused to quit. All that from one working summer. I can feel my eyes kind of welling up because, when you have those experiences and they are in your mind and you can go back to those feelings and just remember. And even though it's decades later, right, writers, I still remember hearing people, just families having fun, at that water park and wondering, why am I not enjoying my summer vacation and I'm working instead, of having fun and being, a teenager. So, you don't forget it. Anyway, back to the critiquing. I like the writer's voice. I really like how I have different lengths of sentences. So I definitely see some sentence fluency. I don't really, I appreciated how I use that repetition. As far as, right here, I've got that repetition. I may decide to add a third one. It is a little bit short. And so what I may need to do is shrink up my introduction because I think my conclusion is satisfactory. It's just not as long as my introduction, and I want to provide more balance. And so that's what I need to do. I mean, I've got 115 words in this conclusion, whereas I believe it was 223 words in the introduction. So again, looking at this, so I'm at 115, 326, and then 223 up here. So no doubt I definitely need to shrink this part of the essay itself. But the purpose really of this video, right, writers, was to critique the work and look at what needs to be done and make those adjustments. And that's really what you want to do, right, writers? You want to write your piece and then let it sit. And boy, did I let this sit for a few weeks, which is why you should be working on your Common App essay over the summer, because you write it in May and begin your process, begin to flesh out the details. As I had completed in the previous videos. Then you start to construct your essay. You let it sit for a week or two and then come back to it and start the editing process. I believe it was Stephen King who said, to write is human and to edit is divine. And I get what he's saying when he says that. Writers, to write is a human experience, but to sit there and edit what you've created is really a divine process, and almost spiritual in its sense, because you have to cut and cut and cut to get to the essence, to the true spirit, the soul of your writing, and really the soul of who you are. If you are interested, right, writers, I do want to say this before I sign off. If you're interested in watching the 2-hour version where I make this rough draft, please feel free to put in a comment in the comment section, and I will get connected with you and then send you that video. It will be unedited, but you definitely get a chance to see my writing process and how it was just to create this rough draft. As I said, it is about 2 hours long, the creation of this essay. So, writers, take care. I hope you have a wonderful day. And again, stay tuned for my next video where I will be editing what I have created in this rough draft. All right, writers. Again, have a great day and an awesome summer. And I hope that you all have the time to work on these. I'm just shrinking this to kind of see, people can see this work here, to work on your essays. Please let them sit, because when you let them sit, you allow yourself time away from your work to then come back and critique what you've created, and not just pat yourself on the back and say, hey, good job. That's not what this is about. This is about going from being human to transforming into someone divine. All right, writers, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Cruz is out. Take care. Bye bye.